peptide craze, perimenopause panic, and the ever confusing experience of being a woman. And today, every burning and panic inducing question you've ever had about your changing female body gets answered today.
And the truth is, after fourth grade health class, fear mongering us about how awful periods are, no one actually educated us on how to take care of our bodies, not even our parents for most of us.
And we are sick and tired of women getting their health information from social media and Reddit instead of getting it directly from the science supported by research. That's why we created this podcast, and that's why we only bring on the most credible, no BS guests to educate you fully on the topics that scare us the most, but with the most research-based support we can find, especially from women who've dedicated their entire lives to creating the answers to all of the misinformation that we're fed.
And last month, I had the very special opportunity to present on a women's longevity panel with today's guest, Dr. Rachele Pojednic. Dr. Rachele is the Chief Science Officer at Restore, where she runs Restore Labs. She got her PhD from Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy, then did her postdoc at Harvard Medical School inside the Joslin Diabetes Center and the Spaulding Rehabilitation Hospital. She holds a faculty appointment at Stanford, research appointments at Harvard's Institute of Lifestyle Medicine, and Edith Cowan University's Nutrition and Health Innovation Research Institute. And she sits on the board of governors for the American College of Sports Medicine Exercise is the Medicine Initiative. She's been NIH funded through the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute and the Vermont Biomedical Research Network. And for over 20 years, she's coached Olympic, Division I, and tactical athletes on nutrition. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, NPR, Time, Oprah Daily, and the Wall Street Journal, Stat News, Self, Women's Health, and Forbes, and now the Overthinking podcast. Can you believe it? So the translation is, when it comes to peptides and all women's health anything, she's not giving you a TikTok answer. She is giving you the hard, cold truth, and she's giving you the research.
This episode was so juicy, we had to split it up into two parts because we truly could not hold ourselves back from answering all of your burning questions from Dr. Rachele.
So this is part 2. We are going to end with a bang, giving the girls the honest, juicy truth about peptides, what they are, what the science says or doesn't say, and when peptides will be available for you to try. So Dr. Rachele, thank you for coming on the show.
Elsie, Bree, I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much. And thank you for platforming science. What an exciting day, because it doesn't happen very often.
Yes.
No.
We're happy to do so. And I think Bree and I both have the humility of like, we don't know everything. So that's why we bring on guests that are trying to know the everything.
And for the record, that is something that scientists say all the time, which I think is what drives people crazy, is we are often the ones that are like, we don't know the answer to that. And people are looking for an answer. And that's where everybody gets so confused, because they're like, wait, the scientists don't know? No, we know what the science says, but we're not making crazy claims around it, which is probably what you're finding out there on the internet.
100%.
And just to highlight that, if someone, especially in research, is like, no, this is exactly the answer. This is exactly the answer. Maybe ask twice, because Dr. Rachele is very humble, but also coming from a place of, we don't know all the answers, but when we don't know, we say, I don't know, instead of giving a fake answer. I want to jump into the peptides conversation, and I want to just ask you, is there any peptide that you would potentially try on yourself?
Yeah, so this
Or
is
the first one.
Yeah. So everybody's talking about peptides, and a couple of reasons why people are talking about peptides is because GLP-1s became so popular, a couple of years ago for weight loss. For the record, the GLP-1s have been around for like 30 years to treat type 2 diabetes. It is not a new medication. But then the biohackers got a hold of it, and we've got all of these other different wellness peptides that are kind of out there. And so it's just really hot right now. And so one of the things that I just want to say is I'm going to poo-poo a lot of this, but I want to also caveat with, I'm actually very bullish about peptides. I think that there is some really interesting mechanism here. And we are actually, I'm on a founding group that we are starting a peptide company over the summer, and we are putting underneath of it a foundational layer of research. So if you come to our company, it's called Chiral, and you participate in the peptides, you are becoming an N of 1 experiment on yourself. We're going to show you how things are working or not. And then we're going to put all this data together to start to put some data behind what's going on with peptides.
I love
So
that you're kind of like exercising people's free will and you're saying, you can do this at your own volition. Give us your signature to know that you like allow this or you're okay with this. And also, here you go.
yeah.
And
And so
thank you for contributing to the research that the powers that be are not. So you are creating a space for people to, one, try these peptides because they want to, but in a safe space, and also contributing to the greater good of science.
exactly right. So
Yeah.
just like a very, very quick primer on peptides. So I mentioned the GLP-1s, they've been around forever. There are a bunch of others that are in the pharmaceutical space. Insulin is one, there are others. Um, a peptide is just a very small protein, right? So it's a string of amino acids and it is physiologically active. You make tons of them in your body every single day. And many of the ones that you're seeing on the wellness market are analogs or synthetics of the ones that you make day to day. And so the ones that you've probably been hearing about are BPC 157 is really hot, MOTS-C, TB 500. There's one specifically for women called PT 141. We can talk about that in just a second. And so, independent of these GLP 1s, what we see is that the vast majority of the research has been done in what we call preclinical models in research. And what that means is that they've been done in cells or in animals. And here's what we know. I'm a clinical trialist. Here's what we know is that rarely do cells and mice translate one for one to humans. And so, what we're being told in the peptide ecosystem right now is that the data on cells and mice is going to be as effective in humans. Now, here's where I get curious as a scientist. I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe, right? And there's enough Reddit threads out there to say people do seem to be having some kind of benefit. They're reporting some kind of a benefit. And that for me is interesting. I've translated my science mostly from the lab to real world data collection over the past several years. And I find that fascinating. But maybe there is something going on there and we should investigate it.
Yeah.
However, right now we have almost no data. And this with women specifically is where I start to be like, "Ooh, let's be careful, right? Because I am seeing, and maybe it's just because this is where my algorithm is set because of this company that we're starting and the research that I'm up to, is that there's a lot of influencers out there that are like, this is the women's stack, right? Like, this is the stack that you should be on. And, a stack is like somewhere between 2 and, I don't know, 10 peptides that people are taking, most of which, by the way, are injectable. So I don't know if, like, you want to stick yourself 10 times a day? I don't know.
Right. How did we
Um,
normalize injecting ourselves so
yeah,
easily?
so easily. So this is where I get a little skeptical about the headlines that we are seeing. Not because I'm not curious and not because I don't think that there's some signal there, but because exactly what we've been saying this entire hour is the headlines are so definitive and the outcomes that they are suggesting are so strong. And we have no data to show that yet, which is why, again, we're setting up the company that we're setting up. The other, and I just want to come back to this idea of stacks for just a second, because this is a lot of how the peptides are being marketed. Um, I'm going to give you a little bit of science from the supplement world. So the supplement space is where I come from, and now I'm moving into these more advanced therapeutics for women. There's this really cool study that came out a couple of years ago where they used a bunch of worms. C. elegans is the model. And they had to do it in worms because this was the study. They took the 12 top supplements that were shown in humans to have beneficial effect on outcomes of longevity. And what they did is that they combined them, they mixed and matched them in stacks of 1 to 4 supplements in every possible combination. And so this is why they needed worms, because if you wanted to do this in humans, it would be like tens of thousands of people. And so they did it in worms. And what they were hypothesizing was what you might be expecting if you open your medicine cabinet and you take out all of your 10 supplements that you are taking, is that they probably work independently, like the vitamin D and the omega-3s and the turmeric are all doing what they're supposed to do. And hopefully, fingers crossed, they also work synergistically, right? They work together. So the hypothesis was that 1+1 of the supplements would equal at least 2, and hopefully 1+1 would equal more than 2. And here's what the scientists found. They stacked them together, and on about 80% of the combinations, 1+1 actually equaled -1, meaning that these supplements were actually antagonizing one another and they were having detrimental effects on the worms. Now, is that holding true for humans? We don't know. This would be a really hard study to do. But if you go a little bit further, about 5 to 8% or so, 1+1 equaled 1, which means you were better off just taking whatever the one more powerful pill was. In some cases, about 3 to 5%, 1+1 equaled 2. And in very small cases, about 3%, 1+1 equaled more than 2. And so this is where I get a little bit skeptical about these stacks of peptides specifically, is because they are being sold as these stacks. We don't know if the combination is synergistic, is antagonistic. All we have are some Reddit threads to give us a little bit of anecdata on how they're working. And so this is something that I think could be super fun to start teasing out. And I'm actually working with a scientist at University of Southern California, USC, to actually use animal models to put some of these stacks of peptides together to start to inform, at least in mice, are they helpful together or are they not? So that's something that we're also doing in the background with this little company, is working with the academic scientists to figure out a little bit more detail and a little bit more mechanism. Crazy, right?
So if someone's like, I want to do peptides, like I've been looking all over, everyone's been promising that they're amazing. If like, what do you think about somebody like doing peptides right now?
Yeah.
If someone, and like no shame to anyone doing them, but like what might someone need to know if they are currently like ripping some BPC 157?
Yeah. Super, super, super important is that supply chain right now is a nightmare. It is the wild west of molecules that could be BPC 157, could be lead, could be arsenic. Like, it comes in a vial and it's white powder and you need to reconstitute it. And even if you get a certificate of authenticity, the COAs that all of these companies are promoting, all that typically will tell you is the molecule in the bottle. It doesn't tell you if the bottle also contains lead or some of these other toxicants. So you need to be insanely careful. There are very, very, very few onshore pharmacies that are making peptides in the United States. The vast majority are coming from India and China, which is, honestly, it's not really a problem. Most of your supplements come from India and China too. There's very few that are onshore in the United States. And so I'm not super concerned about that, but right now you just can't trace that supply chain, right? Like, you just don't know where these labs are, where they're coming from. And so there's been a lot of sort of like sting operations. There was a really good New York Times article the other day. There was another one in the Guardian where they're sending all of these vials out that they've, bought online, and it's coming back with all these heavy metals and maybe 0% of the peptides. So you need to be insanely careful. And so again, this is why I would say right now at this moment in time, wait. Over the summer, there is going to be an FDA ruling at the end of July that basically says, yes, we can start compounding these peptides in the United States again or not. Everybody's feeling like we're moving in that direction. In which case, now you can go and say, oh, this is the pharmacy where the peptide has been created. It's a 503A pharmacy that has good manufacturing processes in place. It's been tested 6 ways to Sunday. I can trace the supply chain. Then and only then would I be comfortable injecting that into my body. I'll give you a really good example. I did a little bit of stealth R&D here, a little bit of recon. And
Yes.
I went onto Reddit. Yeah, this is fun. I went onto Reddit and I asked Reddit, like, where can I get Retta? So Retta is short for retatrutide, which is the next version of the GLP medications. It's actually a triple agonist, so it's got 3 different peptides that are in it. Right now, retatrutide in the United States is in clinical trials. There is not a pharmacy that is making it. It is not allowed to be sold or prescriptions to be written for this particular peptide. So I go on Reddit and I'm like, where can I get some Retta? Get a bunch of feedback back. Oh, you should use this one place. It's in China. Okay, cool. So I go to their website and I'm like, hey, I want to buy some Retta. Super cheap. It's like $500 for 10 vials, which is like insanely cheap. And so they're like, yeah, sure. We're going to switch over to WhatsApp. And I was like, okay, let's go to WhatsApp. So I go to WhatsApp and they're like, okay, what's your mailing address? And also you need to send us an ACH, so like a wire transfer from a checking account so that we can send this to you. And I was like,
Absolutely not.
so I did it, right? I literally like opened a checking account because I was like, I just need to know like what's going on here, right? And so I open a little checking account and I send them an
Oh my God.
ACH. Mhm. And like I got confirmed, great, peptides are on the way. And it was like a confirmation from Hong Kong. And so like 3 to 4 weeks later, an envelope shows up at my house. And I had like completely forgotten that I was like waiting on these, right? And the envelope shows up. It's like very nondescript. It's like 123 Yellow Brick Road, right? And I was like, did I order some weed? Like, what am I? And so was I like late night shopping on Amazon? What is this? And I open it up and it's this little box and it's for like a hair care product. And it's like, please put this on your hair. Like you can do it wet, you can do it dry, like brush it through, whatever. It's like a styling product. And I was like, did I order something late night on Amazon? Like, what the hell is this? And I open it up and there's 10 vials of what they are telling me is Retta. And I was like, oh, this is how this is getting to me. This is wild. And because I have connections, I have sent one of the vials out to figure out whether or not there's actually Retta in there. I've gotten that test back. It turns out there is. I ordered a 30 milligram vial. However, what is showing in the bottle is 37 milligrams, which means that you could overdose yourself really, really quickly. And if you know anything about GLP-1s, the side effects can be pretty gnarly. So it's not going to do harm to me to slightly overdose, but it might give me some pretty significant GI distress, vomiting, diarrhea, the whole thing. I'm waiting right now on the toxicology report to figure out if there's anything else in there. But that is the world that we are operating in peptides right now because they are not able to be compounded in the United States.
I was going to say, I'm so curious about that toxicology because I had a client who recently got Retta and she thought it went bad and because she was having like episodes of vertigo that she's never had before. And the truth is, we just don't know what all of the side effects are. It's a new drug. The FDA has even said, like, we're not sure yet. Let us go through the trials and then we'll bring it to market. And people are so quick to just like jump to these things. And they're like, yeah, I'll be an experiment. But then they're like, why am I having all these health complications?
I mean, it could be low dose arsenic. Seriously. Like
Seriously. Yes, that's why I'm so curious. I was like, girl, please stop taking that. Like, I know that you are live fast, die young. You want to just kind of try anything. Like, I love that spirit. But if you are having complications, you need to pay attention to that.
Yeah. There's a study that I really want to do. There's a couple of methodologies out there that I'm digging into, but if you go on to Reddit, you can't. Yeah, not yet, Frank. You can be my human subject study next. But if you go on to Reddit, there's a way to scrape Reddit to figure out like what people are talking about behind the scenes on a particular topic. And recently there was one that was done on GLP-1s. It was done by this really awesome group where they were trying to figure out what are the side effects that are being talked about on Reddit that are independent of the ones that we have been tracking in the clinical space, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch that people are like, hey, this weird thing is showing up. This weird thing is showing up. I want to do that for peptides to figure out like what are the side effects that people are having as they are injecting these research use only, which actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, one other really important caveat about peptides right now that I think people misunderstand is when you buy from these gray marketplaces, what you will see on the vial is on the bottom, it will say research use only and or it will say not for human consumption. And people often think that that means that I can use that in the lab. Like I actually am able to use this for human clinical trials for research purposes. That is absolutely 100% not what that means. What that means is that you are giving legal cover to the company that is sending you this peptide.
Yep.
So if you try to buy one of these on like some website in the world, a little pop up will show up and it says that um, I am a research scientist. I am using this for research purposes and I'm not giving it to humans. You just click the yes, that's me box and it will bring you to your cart and you can pay your money to get your peptides. What you have just done is legally abdicated your right to say, if this poisons me, I have no way to kind of like come after this company because I told them that I was not using it for humans and that I'm a scientist and I'm using it for research
Yep.
purposes.
Yep.
In the current environment that we live in, I cannot get an IRB or ethics approval to inject human beings with these peptides because I cannot get access to a clean supply chain in the United States. So nobody is doing research on these peptides right now unless they are a pharmaceutical company that has their own supply chain and their own internal research process. You will not find any independent academic researcher doing this because we can't get it through an ethics board.
I cannot help but think of the parallels with peptides and supplements to like the DSHEA in the 90s. That was passed because of public pressure and celebrities and influencers of the time being like, look at all these things that are doing well for me in perimenopause and premenopause. And you had like Suzanne Summers up here, like, look at this supplement. It's fixing my health and my hormones. And now it's just rebranded as peptides. And so we're getting this public pressure at what cost? So corporations can make money and people, women, are harmed in the direct line of fire while we get there instead of just saying, you know what, we need a little more time. This seems plausible. This seems great. BPC 157 might be beneficial, but can we just take a beat for a second?
I couldn't agree more. And the thing that I think is tough for women is that, to your point, Kelsey, is everything is being targeted as specific to them, right? And it comes back to this idea of, well, if there's no data in peptides in humans, then there sure as hell isn't data in women because women are consistently underrepresented
Yep.
in the clinical trials. And so where are these people getting their information that like this is specific to women and it's going to help this particular outcome, the hot flashes, the brain fog, the aches, the pains? We don't have data to show that. Not to say that we can't figure that out in the next couple of years, but this is the other part that's so hard is that peptides are coming probably this summer, maybe in the fall, maybe as late as Q1 in 2027. And it is going to be a wild ride because all of a sudden they are going to be available and there's going to be a lot of claims being made. And if we as researchers don't get on this in the wellness space, in the place where people are using it, we are going to lose out. I have already experienced this once in my career. So I, way back in the day, was really interested in CBD. So CBD, it's a cannabis or a hemp derivative. Everybody's heard of it. It is uh,
Psychoactive.
psychoactive. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Brain fog, perimenopause. It is non-psychoactive. And it was being touted for things like sleep improvements or pain reduction, whatever. And so I'm a muscle researcher and I went and got a massage one time and the massage person was using CBD oil and they're like, it's so good for your muscles. And I was like, really? I was like, I'm a muscle researcher. I've never heard of this, but cool. Went back and because I'm a jerk, I go to PubMed and I'm like, what is the data behind CBD and human muscle? And it turns out at the time there were 4 studies. 2 were in dogs that basically showed that CBD crossed the skin barrier and was detectable in blood. 1 was in humans, looking at the masseter muscle. So that's that muscle that's in your jaw. I was looking at a TMJ outcome. And then 1 was just kind of like a really random, like it was like we gave it to athletes. It didn't show anything. And I was like, this person was very convinced that this worked. And so I actually went down a path of trying to study CBD for about 10 years. And I, first of all, could not get an ethics approval, same idea as the peptides, because it was in this gray regulatory zone at the time when cannabis was becoming, is it legal? Is it not legal? Is the CBD coming from cannabis? Is it coming from hemp? And so my ethics board was like, you cannot give this to people. And I was like, you can buy it at every gas station. Like literally, you can go into a mobile station and there is a case at the cash register that you can buy CBD. And they were like, yeah, sorry, we can't do that research. And what I fear is that peptides are going to end up in that exact same space. I saw an image, I don't know if this is true or if it was AI generated, that there was like a little bodega in New York City the other day selling peptides out of like the back room. And I'm like, this is going to end up in exactly the same spot. And it's interesting. It's a black eye on the FDA. Like they talk about this. Like we screwed that up with CBD because we were so conservative on the way that we were allowing scientists to study it that it just completely got away from us. And now who cares? Like take CBD or don't take CBD. Like, like even scientists are not interested in it anymore. Yeah, because like well, whatever. And so that's what I fear with peptides. And so I am ringing the alarm bells with my colleagues is that if we are not collecting this data in the real world, we are going to be 10 years behind this field. And by the time we get data out, we're moving on to the next thing in the wellness space.
I bet that little peptides bodega was real. I am so like New York City is so unhinged when it comes to like the wellness like waves. I've been reading this book called The Well Woman or something. Kelsey, we were talking about. I sent it to Kelsey, and they talked about
How
how
to be
like
well.
how to be well, and it's like how especially women like we've been marginalized for decades and years, and like you said, there's so little research actually directing us like you should do this, you should do that. So then when there's these big bold claims, we're made to feel silly, and this whole New York subculture of wellness is like the Gwyneth Paltrow elite who have access to somebody, and I'm kind of bummed. I feel like peptides are going to take that route. um but I'm really appreciative that you're here to share kind of like the caution, like the big red, label, big red caution, because I think we need to hear that. And especially because we don't have access to information.
So, one last question about peptides, and then we'll kind of move into our rapid fire. Is there a peptide that you'd be willing to try yourself, or have you tried?
You want to know? I think that is how we got down this pathway. I think that was Bree's question in the beginning, and I never answered it. Um, I have not tried peptides yet. And the reason is exactly what I have been describing. There is just not a supply chain that I feel comfortable with right now. I'm working on a couple, and I think there are a few that I find interesting. So the first is the one that everybody's talking about is BPC 157. I'm very curious about this one because I'm a muscle researcher and it's being touted for muscle tissue regeneration, for soft tissue regeneration. I've had two pretty massive knee surgeries and my knee talks to me every day. And if something can help me with that, that's not Advil, I would be really psyched. So that one is
Me
really,
and Bree both for back pain. Hello.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
also
right.
to say, like, can I help you with the knees?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So I mean, if you can regrow cartilage, we can talk. So I'm super curious about that one. There are some other ones that I think are potentially beneficial for women in particular. So I don't need this right now, but this is available, and you can actually get this for prescription. Is PT 141 has been pretty well researched for women. This is for sexual health. So during perimenopause, you might not want to have sex with your partner or have sex with yourself. If you want to, this is really helpful for that. It's gone through clinical trials. It's really wonderful. Um, Actually, you know what? Now, as you're saying this, there is one peptide that I have tried that I think is really great. And I always forget to put this in my peptides conversation. There is one, it's called Pep19. And the reason why this one escapes me is because it's actually an oral. It's a supplement. It's not an injectable. It is very available on the market right now. It was discovered by a group of scientists in Brazil, really exceptional scientists, exceptional. It's been studied in cells, in mice, and now in humans in the United States. It's a very fascinating peptide that looks at, that works on mitochondria and also in adipose tissue. So essentially, it in very small amounts makes your white fat act more like brown fat. So it improves your metabolism, and it's been shown to decrease visceral fat clinically. So really interesting. And through that mechanism, they're still teasing out why. It's actually quite helpful for sleep. And so I have tried this. I've worked with this scientist group. I'm actually out in my medicine cabinet right now, which is probably why I didn't think about it. But this is a really interesting one. You can find it on you know, supplement shelves, but I also think that this one is pretty good. So BPC is really interesting to me. PT 141 for women, PEP 19. I'm working with one of the scientists, as I said, at USC. He is the guy that discovered MOTS-C. So that's another one that we're going to be going down that path. Um, and then one more that I think could be potentially helpful. This is a topical is GHK copper. People say GHKCU, but that tells me that you've never actually studied the periodic table. So GHK copper has been well studied in topical applications for skin improvements, wrinkle reduction. That does also seem to be doing something. So I think those would be my 4 that I would lean into right now as a woman.
Wonderful.
I do feel like people like just want the list of them. Like, tell me the cool names, right? Like, I want to know the alphabet soup. Like, give me so I feel like that was good just to kind of go through those. For our women's health rapid fire, and to start it off, what artists are on your workout playlist?
Great question. I listen to so many different artists. If you listen to my playlists, they are all over the map. One that's really been on repeat for me, and it's not a typical workout playlist, is the new Everybody Screams album by Florence and the Machine.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that one has just been like speaking to me lately. And so yeah, that's on heavy repeat for me right now.
Florence at the gym rips. I can assure you that.
And Everybody Screams is just this like super emotional, like there's this song on there that's called Sympathy Magic that I'm just like, it just like gets me going. So yeah.
Yeah. Next one,
Amazing.
HRT for the girls. Yes or no?
I'm going to give you a scientist answer to this. And
Please.
the right answer is it depends.
Mm-hmm.
It's symptom based. I am in favor, certainly, but I think women need to work with their doctor to figure out whether it's the right choice for them.
Love that.
What's the deal with infrared sauna?
It is emerging as a very interesting space. So it is an exercise mimetic and does kind of all the things except calorie burning that seems to be the same as exercise. It is a hormetic effect, which means it stresses your body out just a little, not too much. I'd keep an eye on this space for sure. Most of the data that we have right now is population based in Finnish saunas. But yeah, infrared's definitely an interesting place to keep an eye on.
This one makes my eyes roll. Adrenal fatigue.
Okay, well, don't give it away.
Well, clinical diagnosis, common symptoms and solutions? Question mark?
Adrenal fatigue is not a thing. The end.
Okay, I love it. Short and
That
sweet.
one's the answer. It's not a thing.
And so if if you're feeling pretty stressed, you've been in maybe apocalyptic freak out burnout zone, perimenopause or not, you're just like kind of overwhelmed. What would be the best science-backed recovery tool that we as women could use to get out of this like stress zone?
Rest is really important. Finding those moments where you can extract yourself from the stress zone is really key. I think, and I will put myself into this category, my response to stress is to stress my body more, typically with exercise, right? I'm feeling stressed. I'm going to go for some kind of like kick-ass hill run or something, right? And in the acute sense, that might make me feel better, right? Like I get to the end of the day, I'm just like, I just need to let this out to my Florence and the Machine.
Yes.
But really, if I'm listening to my body, what I probably needed to do was go for a walk and take some deep breaths and bring the stress level down. So I think finding that balance for women is really important. We, especially as we're talking, we're, people that work really hard, we are really excited about exercise. Oftentimes, and I won't put this on you, but I will put it on me, is that taking an easy day or doing nothing at all makes me feel really guilty. Like, oh man, like I didn't do the right
100%.
for my body
Yeah.
today. And I think we got to get out of that team. Like, I think we got to figure out there's a time and a place to overstress your body, and there's a time and a place to pull back. And I think we are living in a time of chaos and recognizing that we also need rest and recovery and meditation and softness and sleep is
Mhm.
also really important.
Yeah,
I
I
think that
agree
is
with
a
that.
great one to end on because anything from this entire episode, like that wraps it up. Whether you're going to spend thousands on black market peptides or you're going to buy all the supplements for perimenopause, you heard it here from Dr. Rachel. Check your rest, check your sleep, and your aura ring first, and then maybe consider the gray market.
Yes.
Big levers first, team. Big levers first. Peptides are
Big
always
lever.
a little lever, always.
And if there's one thing we hope you take away from today's episode, it's this: that if you relate to any of these experiences we talked about today, you're not alone. See how common they are? We all experience them. There's so many women out there struggling, and science is doing its best to keep up. And you deserve care that starts with understanding.
Yes. And huge thank you to Rachel for bringing the nuance, the honesty, and just the woman compassion that we needed for this conversation. And if you'd like to get in touch with Rachel or ask her any follow up questions, we will provide her contact email and Instagram in the show notes.
So,
Okay.
thank you, Dr. Rachel, so much for coming on our podcast. This was so informative and just like a really amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and for platforming science and for talking about how we bridge the gap between what we've got going on in the lab and what we've got going on in the gym.
Yes.
And we're not trying to be teachers' pets here, but we are taking a page out of Rachel's book. And we're actually going to take a pause with this podcast. We're going to take a little season break. And we wanted to end it with a bang, which I'm so glad we did. Thank you for being here. And if you need a little break in your life, look around. Let's support each other doing that. If you see a friend or if your friend's canceling plans because they want to get a couple hours of sleep, support them in that.
But don't worry, our break will be short lived. We'll be back the first week of August. And as always, please connect with us on Instagram at overt_thinking podcast, at Brianna Lamb, at Kelsey Michelle, and we're on YouTube. And we will see you in the next episode.
Episode.